Jonathan Becker. I am the assistant golf pro at Effingham Country Club.
You just donated your liver transplant to somebody else. Talk about the situation and what kind of means to you.
Yeah, so it started with my buddy Michael Soul, who's from Charleston, South Carolina. He and I worked together with the Yankees, and it's been 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. He got sick and had found out he had a blood clot in his liver. Um, Worked for about a year to try to get things fixed. A couple surgeries didn't work. They did nothing fully got him healthy. Thankfully, one of our old coworkers, our old boss, Mark Littlefield with the New York Yankees, got us in to New York Presbyterian Hospital in Manhattan, where they have one of the best organ transplant centers in the country. And so Mike went up and saw Dr. Fox up there, and she said, looking at everything that you have with your age, you need a liver transplant, and you can do it via living liver donor. And that was when the whole process started. So Mike called me and said, hey, she said I need a liver transplant. We can do it via living donor, which is where they take 2/3 of the liver from a healthy individual and use that for the ill individual as their full liver. And then my liver grew back and my liver grows back in him as well. So we should both have full livers. So that's kind of the X's and O's of everything that has gone on so far.
As far as this major life decision you were actually making, what went through your mind?
Really, it was pretty simple. My buddy called me and said he needed a liver, and he said, hey, I need a living liver transplant. And I said, well, what blood type are you? And he said, O positive. I said, me too, send me the info. And it was as plain and clear cut as that whenever it first all happened. Now, I know I'm sure too, after I got off the phone, I was like, wait, what did I sign up for? What am I doing? But it was one of those things that there are decisions in my life that I had felt such peace and calm about, and that was one decision, at least jumping in to get tested and figure out whether I was a match or not. There was no reservation. It was, my buddy needs help, and let's see if I can help him. So we were at New York Presbyterian Hospital in Manhattan, New York, so right in New York City, right on the island of Manhattan. My hospital room actually looked over the George Washington Bridge, is what I saw whenever I was in my recovery room.
You didn't even hesitate to make the decision, did you?
Initially, no. And for honestly a majority of the process, there was never any reservations on my end. Thankfully, the Lord had blessed me with being young, healthy, single, no pets, no house at the time. I mean, I was very much blessed with a situation that I could just make this decision myself and go and do. And obviously there's times when I first had one of my appointments and they explained the whole process and the recovery and how difficult it can be on you, there were a little bit of fear crept in, I would say, if I was being totally honest. But at the same time, I knew that whatever Mike was going through was far worse than whatever little fears and reservations I would have on my end of things. So I knew I was going to be in the hands of the best doctors in the country for this procedure, and that they were going to take their best care of me, and that really it goes back to faith for me, and God was going to take Mike and I through this and keep us in his hands, and I just had to have faith in that. So the procedure itself, for me, they ballparked it at 4 to 6 hours, and for Mike, it was like 8 to 10 hours is what they ballparked it at. I think I ended up being by the time they took me back to the time I got to recovery, was about 7.5 hours. Well, they had me on a lot of good pain medicine, so I didn't feel great right after I woke up from the procedure, but they warned me about that because it was going to be, I went from completely healthy, no issues, to 1/3 of a liver. And Mike, my buddy, went from not working liver to healthy. So they said right after the procedure that I would have the tougher recovery and have the tougher road. But really, it wasn't. As long as I took it slow and didn't overdo it, I was really in no pain, I would say, throughout. You'll have your aches and pains and your soreness, but nothing. It was nothing excruciating ever, and ended up. I was in the hospital for 1 week, and then once I got discharged, I had an Airbnb right across the street that I stayed in for another 5 weeks, recovering out in New York before coming home.
How much of the surgery do you actually remember?
Thankfully, none of it. That's the point, right? That's why they put you under. I remember, luckily, before in pre-op, they let Mike and I say goodbye to each other, like, give our hugs and say we loved you and get ready to go. And I remember walking back into the OR and laying down on the table, and that was about the last. I remember them putting the blankets on me and talking me through what was going to happen. And about that time, they popped on the gas, and I don't remember anything till I woke up in the ICU recovery. So, yeah, thankfully it was not a lot. It was early, and then it was waking up in the recovery room.
Did the stress level ever get too high?
I would say no. I remember 3 days after the procedure, I was feeling really good. It was the first day I was kind of feeling like, all right, we're on the climb back up. I'm going to feel great. I had a lot of people coming to check on me, and I sat up and was watching TV and this and that. I was like, oh, this will be great. We'll crush recovery. And I found out the next day that was a bad idea. I realized how much your body needs recovery and rest to regrow an organ. Sounds simple, right? But it's a big change when you're used to feeling healthy and going and doing, to get yourself to, no, I got to take naps, I got to rest, and all that. So I wouldn't say the stress level ever got too high, but I definitely had to balance my activity and let myself sleep in a little bit and take a nap after lunch and stuff like that. That I just had to make sure that I was taking care of my rest so that I could recover, regrow a liver. And my uncle was very, very good in reminding me about that. So that was good. It was good that I had him there to help me keep that stress level down, because he did everything for me, so I didn't have to worry about anything. So that was stress level was down. Just had to make sure I rested.
Knowing if you were or weren't a match, what was going through your mind?
Well, so to give you a background on liver transplants and organ transplants in general, I got this fact from Donate Life America. Hillary was with us during the Hope Week proceedings, and she said last year there were 7,000 kidney transplants done and only 700 liver transplants. So I say that to give the background, in the sense that I knew this whole process was not going to be easy in terms of whether or not I was a match, because they do such a good job of screening everybody that you want to make sure that whoever donates their liver and is a part of this life-saving work, they're going to be back to 100%. So they wanted to make sure that was their utmost focus. So for me, going through the process, it was just taking it one step at a time, and letting the doctors show the results that they were going to show. Realistically, I felt like, why not me? When we were matched blood type wise, and the first blood test came back fine, thankfully I've been blessed with health, so I didn't think there was any reason why I wouldn't be a match. But you go out to New York, and they have to do their in-person testing, which is, they drew 22 vials of blood and did a 2-hour MRI with and without contrast to see just check everything, make sure they're checking all their boxes. And one thing they said that can rule you out is if your right lobe of your liver is more than 70% of your total liver volume, you can't be a liver donor because it wouldn't leave the donor with enough liver to grow back. So I was kind of most focused on that, to be honest, because I felt like that was the only thing holding me back from being a donor. And actually, one of Mike's family members had gotten excluded from donation because her right lobe was more than 70% of her liver. It was definitely all about Mike. It was, I never wanted this to be about me. I don't want this to be about me. Yes, it was my liver that was used to help get Mike healthy again, but I don't know that I would be able to have made that decision without my faith and the work of the Holy Spirit moving me to step out in faith to do this. There's just too many scary things to go along with that I don't think that I could have made that decision without that faith, and I'm just grateful that I have it, and that we have a healthy Michael soul in the world still. I think at the end of the day, I always want to help anybody out, especially the people that are closest to me that have been, my good friends, my family, and Michael's definitely like a brother to me, even before this whole process went down. And when he was in need, if I can help, I wanted to make sure that I stepped out and did that. I didn't want to leave him hurting and unhealthy if there was a way that I could help out. I think the biggest obstacle ended up being all the logistics of everything. New York Presbyterian, like I said before, has one of the best, if not the best, organ transplant center in the country. The doctor that worked on Michael, he actually learned this. He was the first doctor in the U.S. to do the living liver donor procedure. And so he learned it from the French and brought it over here to the U.S. So he was the first guy to do it in the States. He's done a ton of these. So we were in good hands. But obviously, having this done in New York, knowing that I had to stay for 6 to 8 weeks to recover, there were a lot of X's and O's of traveling out there, getting a place to stay. If we get a place to stay, where is it? Is it, how much is going to break the bank and stuff like that. We're trying to make sure that I'm doing this on a being a responsible budget. There is financial aid for organ donors, but it's New York City, so the financial aid was not going to cover it. So just managing all of that, buttoning things up. Thankfully, Tim Kraus, the country club, was awesome, and the board was very supportive in that it was the off season when this happened. So it would have been Halloween this past year. And so they were very understanding and supportive of go, do it, don't worry about work, don't think about this, you just recover and get healthy. So, there's a lot of obstacles that people will generally face, right, with family, with work, with finances, with travel, and a lot of those ended up being taken care of for me, or fears and concerns allayed just because of the support that was given, but definitely making sure that my uncle could come out and spend a month to help me recover, and what were we going to do for food and this and that. Those were kind of the biggest obstacles, I would say, in planning all that and making sure things worked out. Michael and I had our own medical teams. So there was this team of surgeons working on me, and there was a team of surgeons working on him. And like I said, I knew Mike had one of the best teams, and I knew I was going to be right there too. Meeting with Dr. Abhishek Mathur was the guy that did my procedure. Great bedside manner, great individual at breaking it down and making it, hey, this is what's going to happen. this is what you can look for. These are some of the complications we watch out for but shouldn't run into. He was just very calm and confident, and that made me even more calm and confident in him and his abilities too. So the utmost confidence in the medical team, because they train and they do this every day. So I had great confidence in them. The outpouring of support's been unbelievable. My family, while fearful at the start, was nothing but supportive. My uncle John Engelbrecht came out, and he was the one that took care of me for all the way from the day before the surgery all the way through the first month of my recovery. I basically didn't have to lift a finger. I wasn't allowed to lift more than 8 pounds, so he did everything, which was incredible, an incredible time that we got to spend together. My mom flew out, and she took the last couple weeks of my recovery as well, and brought me home. And so that support initially. The amount of cards that I received while I was out there at the Airbnb was unbelievable. And before I left, a couple of members at the Effingham Country Club got together and started a donation for me that was truly life-changing in this process. I mean, I've got a full page, 3 columns wide, of names of members that showed up to support me through this entire process, and make sure that I was taken care of financially, that I didn't have to worry about that side of things. And it was incredible to see the impact that you can have on somebody's life, and that our community, as we see day in, day out, whether it's good, bad, ugly, our community here in Effingham County and Shelby County and the surrounding areas is just, we show up for our people, and we take care of our people, and that was very evident in this whole process. It really got started too with when Mike found out he was going to need a liver transplant. Before I even found out I was a match, Mark, our old boss, came up with the idea. He goes, "Hey, let's start a GoFundMe page, to how do we help Mike through this to begin with." And it was about a year ago, I think it was a year ago Friday, maybe Saturday, that I put up a GoFundMe page and started that process for Mike. And we raised almost $30,000 for medical expenses, travel, lost wages, whatever he needed it for. And the outpouring of support on there, the amount of names and the people that gave multiple times. And I mean, it was just people we didn't even know. There was a guy, Mike called me and he goes, "Hey, did you see this donation?" And I'm like, "No." He goes, "Do you know who this is?" And I said, "No, I don't know that name." I'm like, and they gave a rather sizable donation too. And it was just, we were talking and I'm like, we got to figure out who this is. And lo and behold, it was one of my Uncle John's fellow church members down in Texas. And he had been affected by organ donation in the past and felt moved to help take care of us. And it was unbelievable to see the reach that you can have even outside of that ripple effect, right? You've got your immediate circles of influence, and then how it ripples out to the community and across the country. That was pretty special to see all the way through, early on, and then into the whole. I mean, the Yankees were nothing but supportive the whole way through anyway, and then we were blessed to be a part of Hope Week.
This is the 15th edition of the New York Yankees Hope Week, which celebrates those who help others persevere and excel. This year's honorees were selected for their ability to use social media for good, and the Yankees didn't have to look too far for today's guests. John Becker and Mike Soul were joined by some Yankees players and coaches on a food-filled visit to Arthur Ave today. John and Mike worked as athletic trainers in the Yankees minor leagues, and last year, when Mike needed a liver transplant, John started a GoFundMe page to raise more than $25,000 to cover his medical expenses. Then, while searching for a liver donor, John found out that he was a candidate. So in October of 2023, they had the joint procedure to save Mike's life. They'll be on hand for tonight's game as well. Great.
What's the most unique story you've ever heard?
I would say at least one that comes to mind now happened at Hope Week. We were actually on the field for batting practice, and there was a reporter there that made it a point to introduce himself to me and to Mike. And luckily enough, he introduced himself because he's like, I just received a kidney transplant. About the same time that I gave Michael my liver, one of his son's soccer coach gave him his kidney. And so he was able to share that of, the story that they had of how they found out that, he needed a kidney, and then he was a match, and shared that whole story of going through their process and the recovery and how well everybody's doing. And so that was a very cool story to hear on that side of it from them. And then just there have been multiple others that I've heard of. Oh, so and so had a liver transplant when they were a child, or this or that. There was I forget which. There was a teacher out at Effingham at the high school that donated a kidney, I believe, as well. So just you realize how big the transplant community is as you join it. Gift of organ donation is a miracle for the recipient, and in return it's a miracle for me too, because I get my buddy back. Or Michael's dad Joe gets his son back, his sister Courtney gets her brother back. But in return, it's changed my life too. It's brought a whole different perspective on life and what it means, what people mean, and what relationships mean in your lives. And it's something that it's not for the faint of heart, for sure, in stepping out and getting involved with organ donation, but it's hard to describe the miracle that it is in your own life too. I don't want to talk about me, but it's definitely given me a whole brand new perspective on life, appreciation for life, and appreciation for my loved ones around me and the time that I have with them. Michael's living in Charleston still and doing well, and as of this recording, he was pushed back from doing blood work every week to every 2 weeks, just as he continues to progress. He'll be on anti-rejection meds the rest of his life, but by the end of 1 year, they should be tapered down to one medicine. So this is a great step forward in that whole process. So this is something that my buddy Michael gave me after everything went well. This was part of my Christmas present, was a little sign here that he gave me. And actually green is the sign, or is the color for liver transplants.
Who has been the biggest impact for you in the situation?
Well, I think it would have to go back to my parents, to be honest with you. Not only their support now, but all the way while I've ever since I've grown up and everything else to raise me in the faith and keep me in the church and to be able to have that faith and in God to get me through this. So it goes back to, if I don't have that faith, I don't think that I step out and do this. I hate that sounds selfish, but it's the unfortunate truth, I think, in our sinful world. But obviously I can't know that. I don't know that answer. So at the end of the day, it comes back to faith for me. And my parents instilled that faith in me from a young age. You know, my dad's a Lutheran pastor, and so their impact on my life and upbringing has to be the biggest impact in this situation, just because without that faith that they raised me in, I don't think that I do this.
Did you envision yourself being in golf as much as you are currently at the Effingham Country Club for the assistant pro?
I would say it was always kind of in the back of my mind. So I went to McKendree University and got my degree in athletic training, which is what I started, and I've been an athletic trainer for the last decade of my life. 3 years at Nashville High School and 6 years with the Yankee organization in their minor league system. But I played golf growing up in high school, played in college on the team down there at McKendree, and I've always loved golf. I joked with my parents when I was looking at the move home, and I said, you know, I always envisioned my retirement job being working at a country club, probably mowing, you know, greens or fairways or whatever, and that'd be my retirement job. I just didn't realize I'd take my retirement job at the age of 32. So it's been fun to get back into golf and be in it full time and be able to use my athletic training as well to help some of my golfers move better, to play better golf, to hopefully stay healthier too. So yeah, I think it was always an envision that I'd be in golf somehow. I just didn't know how, and this has been great.
So with Tim, perfect leeway into the golf part of it here, the golf professional at the country club. How much support has he given you through this whole process?
Yeah, it's been a lot of support. He was one of the first guys to know that I was looking at doing this process. We had the Kerner member last year, and we got done, and he's like, all right, let's go have an ice cold Kerner product. And I go, well, I'm not going to be doing that, just because it was during the time I didn't know if I was a match or not. And I said, hey, I'm looking at doing this process. I told Mike, until I figure out whether I'm a match, or if I am a match, then obviously post-op. If I'm not a match, we'll see from there. But I said, I'm not going to drink until we figure this whole thing out. Because I said, if he's getting my liver, he's getting the healthiest dang liver he can get. So from that moment on, you know, Tim obviously understood and was nothing but supportive with that. He called and checked in on me regularly while I was out there, and just, hey, we got stuff taken care of back here. You just regrow that liver, get healthy, and come back stronger than ever. So it was great to know that your direct boss and the whole country club, really. I mean, and in the business office, the entire board that we have, everybody was, when I brought it up to them and said, hey, I might have to miss 6 to 8 weeks of work because of X, they were like, well, why are you asking? Like, go do it. So it wasn't one of those, hey, I know I only get X amount of time off, but they were all extremely supportive of this, is especially in the wintertime. This is way more important than a few weeks of work.
Would you rather be an athletic trainer or an assistant golf pro like you are now at Effingham Country Club?
Well, the third answer that you're going to get is I like being both. It's nice to be at the country club and be able to use my athletic training, my kinematics, kinesiology, motor learning knowledge that I've gained over the years as an athletic trainer. Being able to work with such a in-depth working knowledge with the professional baseball players. With the Yankees, they leave no stone unturned in trying to make sure their players are as healthy as they can be, move as well as they can. So I get to learn very in-depth knowledge on motion and everything else, and how we can keep players as healthy as possible, and to be able to use that into golf and be working at a country club and be at the golf course every day. Like, I get to go to work at a golf course every day. I get to be on a golf course every day. So that in itself is a blessing. So can't really pick one or the other. I got to pick both.
Since you were in the minor league system as a trainer for the Yankees for 3 years, of the Yankees players, who are you closest with?
So I got to be in contact with a lot of great players all the way through the organization. Um, in the time that I was there actually from 2017 through 2022. And the 2020 season was in COVID in New York City with the big league team for the summer camp and that. So I was very luckily got to be a part of the big league side of things for a year. But it's always been fun to watch my minor league guys come up through the organization and play in the big leagues and have success. First guy I ever had on a team that made it to the big leagues with Jonathan Loaisiga, relief pitcher for the Yankees. I had him in 2017. That year I also had Oswaldo Cabrera, who's been like a super utility guy up there. And he's one of my favorite minor leaguers I've ever worked with. There's too many to name, but he's one of the guys at the top that just loved working with him. Always brought a big smile and great attitude. Austin Wells was another one, now catching up there with the Yankees. I only got to spend about a half a year with him in Hudson Valley, but just an amazing Christian man as well, and really good relationship with him. Gotten to know some of the big league guys as well, some of the big names, which has been fun too. But let's see who else. More local connection, Trey Sweeney, who was a shortstop with the EIU Panthers, that got drafted by the Yankees first round. Had him in Hudson Valley in 22. He's now with the Dodgers. Jason Dominguez had him. I'm trying to think who else, but just working with the big league guys in spring training and that as well. Getting to know Judge a little bit, and cool too. Whenever I started with my first year, we still had CC Sabathia, Brett Gardner, all those guys. That it was cool to see some of the old guard, and can't leave out Chad Green either. He was the first guy that when I got to go over to the big league stadium and be around stuff over there, I knew that I could at least have one person that I could go up and talk to, because I was very much nervous and felt out of my element. And when I saw Chad in the dugout, I'm like, okay, I can go talk to Chad and at least get a little bit settled in. So very gracious, grateful that we had him there too.
Did you ever interact with Giancarlo Stanton?
Yes, I thankfully we had rotations where we got time at the big leagues, and 2020 I was part of, as Mike and I called ourselves, we called ourselves the intake task force, and everybody had to come see us before they could get into the stadium. We had to take their temperature, check their symptoms. So I got to see him on a daily basis there. And he actually asked to see my scar when I was down visiting spring training this year. So that was kind of funny to be across the room and hear Giancarlo be like, hey, let's see your scar. So it was cool to get to know those guys and be around them. Judge as well. I don't know if you're going to ask me about him too, but he, during our Hope Week, festivities, we were getting a tour of the renovations of the clubhouse and stuff by one of our old coworkers, Mike Shook, and Judge was getting ready to sit down and eat his pregame dinner, and literally put his meal down, walked across the room, gave Michael and I big hugs, and said, "Hey, how's everybody doing?" Made sure we were taken care of. It's great to have you guys here, and all that. So now I felt like a little kid whenever he gave me a hug, but he is that big. So so just very, very cool to be able to have some of those stories to share, and everything that you hear about those guys being just good dudes, especially Judge, Stanton, both of them. They really are. The stories are true and more.
What have you learned the most through this entire experience that you went through?
I think I've learned that. I think I've been reminded how important relationships and people are to our lives. Because at the end of the day, it started with Mike and I, right? It started with his need for a liver and my desire to help out a good, dear brother. And along the way, we needed so many people to be in our lives and have relationship with that, from our families to support us, Mike's girlfriend supporting him, the doctors, the nurses, the cab drivers, the pilots that took us on the plane to get us to New York and back, and all the cards, the prayers, the thoughts. We need people in our lives. We need those relationships, and we need to invest in those relationships, because some of the best times that I can remember from this whole process weren't anything exciting. It was having coffee with my uncle, or being able to wander down the hallway and see Michael and talk sports with him. They seem very mundane on the outside, but on the inside they hold such a special place in my heart. Just like the comment I made about Judge getting up and walking across the room to give us a hug, right? It didn't take much out of his day, but it means the absolute world when you get somebody like that to step up and just check in on you. To really feel that personal connection is just incredible. And I felt it on levels that I never thought I would with this whole process, with the connection that I now have with Mike. And I think it's only helped with my relationships with my family, with my friends, with my coworkers, and with the members and people that I run into on a daily basis. You just take time, slow down. We all get busy. Invest in those relationships and invest in that time that you have with each other, because you truly don't know when that could be your last time, or when you will get that time again. So really, really enjoy that. Invest in the people around you, in your community, in your circles of influence, and really enjoy everything that those relationships have to offer.
So, John, what would you tell the young John to now?
I would say keep having faith, and I think I have to keep telling myself that every day. The Lord's taken me a lot of amazing places, traveling with baseball, and from my first job at Nashville, it was the only interview I had. There have been a lot of things that have fallen into place in my life that I've been very blessed to be a part of, and just keep having faith in that. Not every season is going to be smooth. Not every time in your life is going to feel like it's the best thing in the world, but know that you're going to be brought through, and that amazing things are going to come along. You just have to be ready to accept those, and be able to enjoy those, and stop and smell the roses. So every career move I've made has been that way, and this step to step out and help Mike has been the same way.
Thank you so much for sharing your incredible story that you just don't hear every day. It's very unique. So thank you for sharing your story. I look forward to having everybody in the community listen to what you have to say about everything.
Thank you, Tyler, for taking time out to spend time with me and to allow me to use your platform to share my story and share what a blessing it could be. I'd be happy to talk to anyone that sees this, that would love to know more, hear more, reach out. I'm always happy to talk about it. Thank you, Tyler.